Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So this is Lou Martin, and I am with my new buddy Andrew Kingston, and we were just chatting here a moment ago. So I am friends with Andrew's mom, Shirley Kingston, who runs the brilliant Bandon Farmers Market that I've been talking about for a long time now, and Andrew and Shirley lost. Andrew's sister and Shirley's daughter, Allison, to suicide on January 8th of this last year. And here we are now in September. And Andrew's over here for a visit to Ireland. He's living in the States now. And he's been brave enough and generous enough and willing enough to come and talk about some of these things. And I'm amazed by the family and their courage, and they have a lot of wisdom to share with us. So I thought I would put Andrew on and ask him to talk a little bit about what his journey has been like since Allison's passing. And you're very welcome, Andrew. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's. I mean, even doing this in itself, I know is it helps with the healing and the grieving for me. So I'm
Good.
yeah, very happy that you've asked me,
Good.
and it brings me closer to Alison, knowing that you are a good friend of hers too.
Thank you.
I remember she introduced me to you just over a year ago at the farmers
I
market.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, but my journey. Well, January 7th, my son Aiden was born. We live in Michigan, and that was obviously something that was building up for us. And Alison was, in contact. So excited for us. She's also a good friend of my wife, Kelly, and I remember distinctly the messages that I was receiving within a family group on WhatsApp that we have, and the beautiful messages that we're receiving from Alison. In hindsight, it stands out that I said, I can't wait for you to meet him, and she said, it will be magical. I don't know if there was something hidden there that I didn't know, but
Hard to know.
yeah. And but no, she just such beautiful messages and comments on photos and that. And,
Right.
And so that was January 7th, and January 8th. We were still in the hospital. January 8th, January 9th, and actually, my son Aiden had failed the newborn hearing test.
Right.
But on 24 hours and 48 hours. On 48 hours, we were quite upset, having heard that, but we knew that could be okay.
Okay.
And we were, there was a sheer tear shed.
Sure.
On hearing that.
Yeah. Sure.
And it was literally half an hour later I got a phone call from my brother.
Wow.
And, yeah. Just talking about that obviously brings
Sure.
that back for me.
Sure.
And
Sure.
And I thought my brother was calling me. We'd been messaging as well, but I hadn't
Right.
spoken to him on the phone since having Aiden.
Right.
And thought there's nothing unusual about him.
Yeah.
About him calling me.
Yeah.
And his words were, Andrew, there's no other way to say this, but. And I think what he said is Alison has committed suicide.
Wow. Terrible.
And I just hit the floor. I was still in the room. My wife was there holding Aiden.
Right.
And obviously instantly she was wondering what happened.
Yeah.
And, it was just
The shock of your life.
crazy.
Yeah.
It did happen. It did so happen that I had noticed that she hadn't responded to messages, and I had actually mentioned that to Mark, my brother.
Right.
Is she okay? I
Okay.
mentioned that a few hours previously, and he said, "Oh, she's staying she's at her friend Orla's house."
Right.
And I thought, maybe she's just kind of switched off. That could be a thing she could do.
Sure.
Just not want to be online,
Sure.
switch off.
Right.
Their house in the countryside,
Right.
That put me at ease because I did think maybe there was something up.
Okay.
She had gone through a little bit of a difficult time at Christmas.
I see.
Before that, I can get into that in
Yeah.
a minute if you like. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that that was how we found out. And unfortunately, because I was waiting on my green card in the States, there was no way for me to travel home, not soon enough.
Right.
And obviously, even that aside, just having a 2-day-old baby
Yeah.
wasn't really going to be
Practical.
feasible. But I do remember my brother saying to me, he said, "Don't even think about coming home.
Right.
Mom and Dad are going to need you much more in a few months."
Right.
You know,
Right.
Lots of support happening, and thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
with technology, we were able to be,
Mm-hmm.
on well, not really video at the time. I think we weren't in the mood for video, but had calls and
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah.
That worked out okay.
Yeah.
But here I am back. We're back here about a month now, and
Right.
it's been great to be with family.
Right. Brilliant. Well, that was well told. Thank you, my friend, for sharing all that. I mean, it's as I've said to you, I do remember when Allison introduced us at the market last year, which just seems like yesterday, of course. And then you gave what to my heart was just a courageous and beautiful and loving and vulnerable eulogy that we got to hear standing there at St. Peter's, a stone's throw from where we're sitting right now. And I just thought, wow, this is a big moment in my life, honestly, to see the love that you have for Allison and for you to share it so beautifully. And again, Shirley and your dad and everyone there, it was just it really was a full blown tragedy, because she was such a bright light and such a beautiful soul and loved by so many people. That was part of the shock, I think, for all of us, that we never,
Absolutely.
when my friend called me and told me this, I could not believe it. I said, no, that's not possible, and I turned out to be wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are huge
No, thank
lessons.
you.
Sure,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
I mean, my eulogy, it was, I can't quite remember how it came about, how I did it, but I knew that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And, I didn't want to try and take over from anyone else in the family, but because I couldn't be there, we were discussing about how, firstly, I could.
I think you were the man for the job, in my opinion.
Firstly, how I could watch the funeral service, and perhaps one of the few good things that came out of COVID is something like that, where they started live streaming funerals.
Right.
So I knew that was going to happen, and then we were obviously talking about how I could be involved, and it was maybe said that I could write something and my brother would actually read it.
Right.
But thankfully it worked out that I was able to do it by video. And I must say it came so naturally to me, and I don't mean that in a way that it would normally, but when I sat down, I didn't really know what I was going to say, and I just started writing.
Right.
And I really felt Alison was helping me with it.
Sure.
Sure. As you said, maybe it's just the love for her that it just poured out very naturally. And my only fear was that it was going to be too long, and then I didn't know what I wanted to cut out.
No, I don't think that was true at all. And honestly, it was such I was mentioning, that my dad was murdered when I was 17, and that was a horrible, tragic experience, just like what you've gone through with Allison, you and Shirley and your family. And you can never walk in anyone else's shoes, of course, but when you go through great suffering like these moments force us to do, it deeply challenges you to look for the meaning, for the hope, for the love, for the gift in the midst of such overwhelming, sadness, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of a quote, or something that
Sure.
people say is that you can't experience deep love without experiencing deep grief.
That's right.
And I think something like that resonates very much with me.
Mm-hmm. Good.
That being said, though,
Bless you.
I've experienced losing people before,
right.
Usually grandparents or maybe friends or younger cousins, like not an immediate family member. Thankfully, not both, as we've said, both my parents are alive.
Yeah.
And it's just so difficult to wrap your head around. And in terms of grief, and I'm in a men's circle, which was very
good for you,
beneficial to me.
Brilliant.
And because this is the type of thing that we would talk about.
Sure.
And it's often come up before, men that are in that group talking about how they didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually it's maybe losing a parent or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And for me, it raises the question of, well, what is grief? You know, how do you grieve? Because even I experienced that. Like, it's different for me because I was in the States and away from family.
Right.
So,
There was
like, I had other things going on as well, and having the baby, and sometimes I feared that I was skipping some of the grieving by not being here as well. It just felt so surreal. And there was one thing I was really looking forward to about coming back here, that it would feel more real.
Has
And
it?
it often does, but overall it doesn't. It still feels so surreal.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in part that I just, like, obviously Alison was such a big part of my life that I
Yes.
still feel that she is.
Sure. Sure.
And I just wonder how, you know, it's just as time goes on,
Yeah.
that it will most likely just feel more real because my memories of her don't change or don't, you know,
Right.
she'll stay the same.
Right. Can you talk about what a big part of your life Alison was for you in any way for us?
Yeah. Like, I suppose growing up, so we're 2 years apart, and I wouldn't say if we were particularly close or not close growing up. We were just
Right.
kids doing
Right.
kids
Right.
doing different,
Brother and sister.
depending on what you're going through in life. Sometimes 2 years can feel like a lot, and sometimes it doesn't feel like much at all.
Sure.
Especially, obviously, as you get older.
Right.
And Alison was very much into sports and very good at sports as
Okay.
well, so that was fun.
Okay.
Especially playing golf, because she was better at golf than me.
Really, I never heard this.
She was better.
Okay.
She was better at golf.
I never heard the
most
golf
boys her age.
Wow.
So she took good pleasure in beating us all.
Good for her. Yes.
So that made it fun. Made family holidays fun.
Right.
And I think we always would talk a lot about things and, you know, have interests in common. But of course, like,
She was younger. You were.
Sorry, she was younger.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess obviously it's easier to remember recent years, but you know, certainly in recent years, I'm sure we just got closer and closer.
Right.
Right. And yeah, common interests, both of us working for ourselves.
Right.
So I naturally supported her a lot in what she was doing.
Yes.
Certainly from a technical point of view, because that's
right.
more my area.
Yes. You work through the internet.
Exactly.
Through the internet. And you help to promote her work and such.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was something that we, even when I was living abroad, we would have regular calls to talk about something.
Sure.
Which would also mean we'd talk about
personal
things and other things.
Yeah.
We could talk for quite a while.
Good.
But it helps to actually have some structure, you know, that a call was arranged because there was something work related.
Sure.
Because we would talk regularly anyway.
Okay.
Just time might just move by and
we
wouldn't talk.
Sure.
But for me, so I supported her, I guess, more in that role, or maybe advising her a lot of work related stuff. Of course, we talk about personal things, but I feel, especially now looking back on it,
right,
maybe she helped me more with personal things. Maybe also looking back on it, I was more open with her about certainly, you know, relationship type stuff. She was a good advisor to me. If I was going through, you know, something,
woman challenges,
yeah,
okay, yes,
and yeah, things like that, or just talking about where, you know, maybe feeling a bit unsettled. You know, as I said, I lived abroad, but I moved to Spain, or even, you know, within Ireland, you know, sometimes working from myself, you know, would bring its own challenges, and she was always very supportive in that.
Wow.
But I would say as well, from a personal point of view, I said that maybe she didn't share as much, but actually thinking back, so Alison, even to you, I know you knew her very well, but you say how much of a shock it was, and of course it was a shock, but I know, speaking to some people that even knew her very well, they don't know what difficult times she went through over the years, and probably my mother would know the timeline better, but there was at least 3, maybe 4 times that she was very, very low.
I see.
Life was tough for her. She would have bottled a lot of it up, especially in early years.
I see.
But I guess if you call it a breakdown, there was maybe 3 or four times where she really was, in tears, that kind of
Right.
thing, just pouring her heart out and saying what was happening. And I remember in particular,
So sorry to hear that.
I can't remember the year. I'm sure I could look it up somewhere because I've thought about it something recently, but I guess maybe around, I'm gonna guess, 2013, that she went to South America, and she went there kind of, she wanted it to be a healing journey.
Okay.
And she had connected with a shaman there
Right.
that she was very hopeful that was going to help
Right.
her. But she also thought that just traveling there, that it would be a really good place to spend some time.
Sure.
And also I know she knew that getting away from here was something she wanted to do as well. And actually it was going to occur, like that she was going to be away for Christmas, and that also suited her very well, because she knew that she just didn't really like Christmas.
Okay.
Partly because Christmas always involved reunions of friends, and if she wasn't feeling
chipper,
right. You might think from the outside that she was, and that she just didn't want to have to fake it all.
Sure. Sure.
I think Christmas is one of those things for a lot of people.
Oh, it's the Bermuda Triangle of recovery and sanity. They say in 12 steps.
So she went there. What she had arranged with the shaman didn't work, I think, for multiple reasons, and mainly just that person, something, I think she had met a new man and was not as available to Alison as she expected. And I honestly can't remember what they did together, or how that went. But Alison probably pinned a little bit too much, as you do in these situations.
Sure.
Maybe pinned a little bit too much hope on that. But I think it was also, the trip was more difficult for her than she anticipated. Even right up to she traveled in October, and before she went, she really broke down, and she really said, she was saying that she couldn't go, and it was a difficult one for us as a family, because we partly felt we should let her not go, but then we knew she would be so disappointed. It would almost make life much more difficult for her to even have to tell everybody that she was telling that she was going, that she couldn't go.
Right. No, that's a big burden.
We made a decision that we would encourage her to go.
Right.
We never saw her. I know both me and my brother in particular, because he brought her to the airport, and she was just in such tears and so upset. But then after a few days, she was glad she had gone as well. But the point that I guess I was going to make about it,
you're doing fine. You're doing fine. You're helping us understand this beautiful woman.
She confided in me away. She confided in me while she was away. I remember that we would have Skype calls with my mum and dad and me. I was living at home with them at the time, and then I would stay online a little bit longer with her, and she would give me the real story.
Yes,
and it was quite
different.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Wow, that's such. Can I just say that I appreciate you sharing all this, Andrew. I mean, honestly, this is helpful for me, because I did not know that side of her. I just knew her as this dynamic, charismatic, upbeat, working, caring, loving, passionate, jumping in the air pictures and all that,
smiling all the time.
Oh my God. And so again, there's the image of someone you have, and there's actually, what's their inner life is like and what's really going on.
And by the way, like that, what you saw on her, that wasn't really put on either. She might tell you sometimes that it was, but I think I knew that it wasn't, that she could, if it's possible, she could share joy with somebody and she could laugh. She had such a good sense of humor. That would happen. And, but yet underneath, obviously, there was these other feelings that were eating away at her. But just to finish on that, on South America, it wasn't so much that she was trying to mislead my parents either. It's just, you give them the highlights of the good things that you do.
Man. Oh yeah, we all do that. We've all done that.
And I'm like, well, how is it really? And one example was, and this was, I'm guessing it was 2013, and she didn't have, maybe it was a little early, but she didn't have a smartphone. I think I remember giving her an older iPhone of mine that she could use as
Yeah.
like something
Yeah.
connect to Wi-Fi and all that.
Right. Video and
Um,
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that got stolen from her in a hostel that she was in, I think, in Peru. And she basically knew that the guy at the reception desk in the small hostel had taken it. There was no real other way it could have happened.
Yeah.
The room being locked and
Right.
everything. And unfortunately, these are just the things that happen.
Sure.
And I think that was a form of connection that she had, or
Sure.
a way she could connect with us. And,
Sure.
But I think that that's just a small thing, but just something that she maybe tried to brush off. But again, she wouldn't have wanted to worry my parents so much about telling them things like that had happened. And anyway, there was one point, I think it was very soon after Christmas, that I don't know how often I heard from her. Back then it's a little different to now, when we're all a bit more connected and there's better internet and all these places and that.
Sure.
But so it would be understandable that I mightn't hear from her for a few days.
Sure.
But I can't remember exactly, but maybe 5, 6, 7 days passed, nothing from her.
Yeah.
And really started to get a bit worried. We had an idea of where she was. I remember I called a hostel. I actually got a friend, because I guess it was Spanish speaking, a friend that spoke Spanish, to call to see when did she leave this hostel.
Sure.
And unfortunately, she had left when she's, we hoped maybe she was still there a bit longer or something.
Okay.
And we just didn't know where she was, and I was not letting on to mum and dad so much. I think they knew we hadn't heard, but I was like, yeah, but she's gone here,
Yeah, you were putting a good face on it for them. I understand.
I was like,
you were panicked. Yeah.
And then I knew, never would have liked to have thought about suicide and that, but it definitely crossed my mind. Then I was like, what has she done?
Wow.
I just can't believe, I just couldn't. I don't know. And what's worse, and was maybe bad, I guess she'd have known, because of working with her, I could log into her emails.
I see.
And I don't like doing something like that.
Right.
But
if you're worried about her, you wanted to find out what was happening.
I was like, I have to go in and see. And obviously, the disappointment to see that she hasn't contacted anybody else. There's nothing else.
Sure, I'd be
worried.
worried.
I sent her another email, and it hadn't been opened.
So all that would feed my worry, my friends. Sure,
And and she popped up again.
Okay.
But it was clear that I think she had gone. I can't remember what exactly she had been doing in those few days, but she was probably very much by herself, and I think it's just a sign of how low she was. She didn't really want to talk to anybody.
Right.
There was probably some genuine difficulties with connectivity, maybe, but I think she was just in a low place.
Yeah. No, I hear all that.
And I guess, going back, like, that's an example of how she would confide in me. And I remember distinctly the night she came home, when we were in the kitchen of my parents' home, where both Alison and I were living at the time. We had a lot of chat. Mum and Dad, was actually late. Probably a good thing that it was late. They went to bed, and then it was probably it was the first time that I ever experienced hugging her while she was crying. You're thinking maybe just hugging her. I'm sure we hugged before that, but while she was bawling,
I'm just taking it in.
Bawling, crying.
Bless her.
No, we wouldn't have been the greatest huggers in our family either. It's probably a different story.
Yes, that's understandable. It's a cultural thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Story is.
Sure.
But I just remember her
really breaking down
crying. And explaining, telling me some other things, and just basically saying how shit she felt. And it's like, she went there, like a lot of things that happens, a lot of us, you build something up, but she went there with great hope. And now she's back, and what she had hoped for hadn't happened. And it was very much like, what the hell am I going to do now? And thankfully, at the time, she did find something. And similar to what all this time later also helped her in recent years, it was I think kind of a sound therapy. Like what she did in recent years was neurofeedback therapy.
This is Michael Mulcahy.
With Michael.
Sure. In
2019, she met Michael. And it really, really helped her.
Yeah, he's helped me too.
So much. And so much that they then joined up together, and Alison. Well, at first Alison incorporated neurofeedback into her business with the neurooptimal system that they use, and and then kind of joined kind of a partnership with Michael. But all those years ago, she went to Galway for, I guess it's some kind of neurofeedback system, but like I remember she probably called it brainwave optimization, although that mightn't have been the correct term. And it really seemed to help her at the time. So it got her back on her feet at least.
Okay.
And yeah, there was undoubtedly some other low times in between.
Right.
But that was the experience of her coming back from South
Mm-hmm.
America.
Mm-hmm. So thank you. So what I hear you saying, Andrew, is that she was really kind of struggling with depression a lot of her life that none of us, outside of her family would have known about.
Yeah.
And she kept it quite under wraps, sadly. It seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Orla, her friend, and didn't I read after her passing, Orla saying, Allison would come and stay and have dinner and spend the weekend and be like the aunt to Orla and her kids and this kind of thing, and they had no idea that that she was carrying all this.
Yeah, I guess Orla would have had
Quite
an idea of Alison's low times or sufferings.
Okay.
But yes,
I got that wrong.
No, well,
right.
But in a weekend like that,
yeah,
she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because Alison wouldn't appear like that.
Yeah.
So she might have known that she was very low.
Right.
And then, but again, it's not that Alison was so much trying to hide it or
sure.
Lie about it.
No.
I guess Alison almost learned to live with it. Being something that just ate away at her. But that didn't mean, like I said, that she couldn't laugh a lot.
Sure.
I don't know any good way to describe how that works because I remember having conversations with Alison and going back again to just another instance where I obviously would have supported her. Was when back in, I think it was that 2019, she wanted to go to the Netherlands for some treatment over there.
Okay.
And I went along with her to support her, and
good for you.
And we had a lovely weekend.
Right.
It's the strangest thing. She was as low as she could be.
Okay.
But yet, well, in my mind, that's my view on it. But we went out for dinner a couple of times. We went for a few walks.
Right. Amsterdam or whatever.
Of course, actually it was Eindhoven.
Okay.
And which is beautiful.
Yes,
and we spoke about these things, and obviously I knew she wasn't feeling herself, but she was hopeful. I know she appreciated the support of me being there, and we were talking about things that she could do. But at the same time, I distinctly remember sitting in the hotel room that we were in, and again her just breaking down.
Right.
And I think it might have been the only time that she wouldn't have used the word suicide, but she would have said something like, I just sometimes think I'm better off not being here.
Wow.
And you try to talk to her and say,
it's hard to take that seriously when somebody says that.
It is, because you're like, Alison, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody,
exactly.
So many people love you. Like,
yes.
You're such good fun.
Yes.
And and also sometimes you might talk about a particular, what about this time, you seem to be really enjoying yourself. And she'd say, no, I wasn't really.
Wow.
I wasn't. What?
Yeah.
I'm sure I could see that you
were. Right.
And like, how do you do that? And then that's what, when you think back now, you think, how much energy did that? I don't want to say that she was faking it all the time.
Yeah.
But she might imply that a little bit. I think it became automatic for her.
Yeah.
But equally, how much energy did it take? And the thing is, and you know it, and you said it earlier, like she helped so many people.
God, yes, man.
She was just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
we're talking about Isaac and Shelley, our friends.
Yes.
And,
and exactly, and helping people as friends.
Yeah.
She had a lot of clients.
Yeah.
A lot of success with clients.
Yeah.
And
she gave a lot of herself.
If a friend or me or anything, we were talking about it at home recently about her neurofeedback system
right.
and how we would all use it. And even though she'd had a busy day, especially with dad or mom, she's like, do you want to use the system? And encourage them to use the system. Even though she needs a break, she's like, come on, I'll set you up on it. And then she'll set them up, set the timer, and she'll be back in there to take all the bits off and everything.
Right, give you 30 minutes. And
I often just thought, to be honest, if that was me, I might be.
Sure.
I had a busy day.
A little reluctant.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'll teach you maybe how to put it on yourself, which actually she did do with me.
Good.
usually, if she was around though, even though I knew how to do it,
Right.
I'd be like, Alison, can you please do it?
Okay. Well, you got spoiled,
You're much better at this than me.
as we all do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
man.
but just so giving. And
Yes.
unfortunately, it's something that I think back and think, you know, was she too giving? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that was her nature naturally.
Yeah.
But I sort of, it's easy in hindsight, but you think she sort of maybe needed to be more selfish.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, you're raising a big point. I've had 35 years of conversations with clients around channeling and spiritual counseling and emotional healing and whatnot. And most of my clients have been women. And this is the number one issue for every woman I've ever dealt with, which is, do you have boundaries? And can you say no without feeling guilty? Or do you have to give until there's nothing left for yourself, So it's a great question, and it's wonderful to chat with another conscious man. And can I just say, it makes my heart very happy that you're in a men's group and you're looking at your grief and you're getting support for the grieving process. When my dad passed, I did not deal with my grief with him at all from 17 to 30. And then when I turned 30 and the spiritual things started to really happen in my life, that's when all the grief that I had repressed or denied or ignored said, I've just been waiting patiently, Lewis. It's gone nowhere. It's right here. And, John Cully, who is this therapist that I was living with there for years, I did like 40 one-day family constellation workshops in his house with him and his groups, part of being there and being John's friend and whatnot. And so I'm just really honoring you, my friend, that you're open to dealing with and feeling and moving through your grief, because it gives us the ability, I hope, to be more deeply emotionally available to the women in our life, that we're not blocks of stone and we're not, taking and never returning the kindness that we get from the women in our lives. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
sure.
And I should add to that.
All right.
That I got in that men's circle because of Alison.
Well, there you go. Yes, and that's wisdom in my mind. So yes, I'd love to keep in touch with you, of course, and hear more about your journey around all that. To just as a topic, grief, like my experience of the program that we all grow up under, and just to say this for a moment here, that women are allowed to be sad but can't be angry, and men are allowed to be angry but can't be sad. So what our power, our wholeness, our fullness is hiding, in these parts of us that most people have been ashamed away from and talked out of. So when life forces us to become more integral and more authentic and deal with the pain that we're all feeling in life, that's the blessing of all that. And there's a lot of healing that comes out of the willingness to feel all these feelings.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. I'm 65 and you're 40, you see? So salute, my friend.
Just turned 40 last week, which
happy birthday to you.
Before we started was one of the things, and I think you need to come this way.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, for God's sakes.
And one of the things that's really been hitting my mom, I mentioned that we've quite a number of birthdays in our family around this time of year.
Yes.
So
you were telling me Alison's birthday is
Monday.
Right, and mine is Tuesday. Yeah, so that's quite humbling.
Yeah, so I mean, I was never really going to be want to have a big party for my 40th birthday, but I know my mother in particular felt it, that this should be a time of celebration. We did celebrate it too, but with a nice family dinner.
Yeah.
But obviously Alison should have been there.
Sure.
And that's
that makes it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
It's tough. Yeah, and with her birthday coming up, will be next Monday. Makes it extremely difficult, in particular from
sure.
Mom. But back to the grief, I don't know if it's because I've done anything different or better or good.
Well, you're open to it. That's what I'm saying.
But I don't feel that these occasions actually affect me any more than any other day.
Okay.
That much. We haven't experienced next week yet with birthday. That'll certainly be more difficult than my own birthday.
Right.
But it's sometimes I don't know if I'm
sure.
grieving as good as I could or not.
Well,
because unfortunately,
it's not a race.
Busy, but
You
the
know.
busyness of life, you just have to, certain things you have to get on with, and it is one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I try to check in on with myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very open to, I might do some grief counselling sometime,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to help with that, because I
Yeah.
don't want to feel that I have skipped
Yeah.
through it.
No, that's very, very mature, my friend. Honestly, and there are men my age and older that wouldn't know what we're talking about here, you know, and wouldn't be open to it at all, you know. So again, it's like all this, you know. Um, um, Allison gave us all this difficult gift, you know, to not be too sanguine about it, you know, that, you know, we got to know her a little bit, you know, and love her a little bit, and then she chose to move on. And the gift of that is, like you said earlier, you know, grief is the cost of our love, and it shows how deeply we care. That's all I know about grief after all my experiences with grieving. Most of those family constellation workshops that I experienced were all about grief. You know, people who felt unseen, disrespected, mistreated, abused, neglected, exploited, all that pain and sorrow that needs to get acknowledged and released so that we can come back and really be able to be present for love and new babies and celebrating birthdays and a sunny day in Ireland and all these good, rare things in our life, you know. So I just wanted to say that she's given us all a really a huge gift. Have you? But that's obviously not an easy gift. You know, it's very hard. Have you talked to anyone else who's lost a loved one through suicide since this happened?
Yes, I'm trying to think if I've spoken to many. One certainly comes to mind. Someone that lost a daughter.
Okay.
Yes, actually, a guy that works with me, he lost his sister to suicide as well. And I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't working together that long.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that was interesting.
Was there? Were you? You know, did he have anything helpful or hopeful or you know meaningful to share about any of that?
Not hugely. I think it was just good that I knew he understood where
Yes.
I was. His relationship with his sister would have been a little different,
Okay.
and her circumstances would have been quite different.
Right.
But yeah, like losing a sister is losing a sister.
Sure.
And
Sure.
yeah, I guess I could probably talk. You know, the difference. I've spoken to other people that have lost siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not through suicide, and
yeah.
obviously suicide brings up its own.
Yeah.
Like.
It's
Questions, and it's a whole other thing to grieve, because
yeah,
like I'm grieving for Alison too. I guess you do
sure.
that in losing anybody.
Sure.
But it's the thought of, I guess, try not to even go there too much. But
right.
what was going on? You know?
Sure.
I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
It's your space, man, and I'm happy to hear you talk about anything.
Yeah, like, well, I mentioned about her going through difficult times, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a shock, and
sure.
especially because actually I would say she went through much tougher times before. And
right.
That's quite possibly the most frustrating thing about it. Is
right.
That we could not have seen it coming.
Right.
You might always say that, but like I mentioned about that time that she was in South America, or maybe other times she went through a difficult time.
Yeah.
You know. You can't compare these things, but would it have been less surprising? I think
sure.
It would, if you're able to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then we don't know. So I also then question: does it mean that she started to tell us less? And you know,
probably. I think it's a fair.
Yeah,
you know,
it's frustrating for me. Obviously, I was living in the States, and I lived in Spain for a few years before that, anyway. But like, there's more of a difference in time zones, so talking to each other would have been a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We still chat. Well, the other thing is, she would have spent a lot of time, even though she was living in East Cork a bit. She would have been at home with Dad, and I naturally had video calls with all of them together. Which, in hindsight, I realized shit, I didn't have as many one-to-one conversations with her where things might have just come up.
Sure.
So, but here, speaking to other people, speaking to Michael, who she worked with, speaking to
Yeah.
brother Mark, mom,
Yeah.
they would say the same. Other friends, or like,
Right.
like they did not see
No.
it, and they know she was low
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And you see, over Christmas she did have an earache or an ear infection.
Okay.
In both the ears.
Right.
She'd been very busy with work and stressed, and it was probably that the stress might have caused that.
Sure.
But then obviously that then caused maybe more
problems.
sleepless nights and
Yes.
things like that. And
Right.
I think she didn't want to worry my mother.
Right.
I guess she wasn't telling her the full story, but then
Right.
equally,
She had
I know that I wasn't being told the full story either, because we were
Right.
about to have a baby, and I don't
Yeah.
hold that against anybody, but they didn't really want me to be worried.
Sure.
But of course, looking back, if we'd known that it could end up like this,
Yeah.
then they'd have gladly told me,
Sure.
if I felt I could offer her some
Sure.
support. So
Sure.
it's just strange, but
Yeah.
I just think about what did she go through,
Sure.
and what pushed her to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's-
Well, I mean, we're coming down the home stretch here. What honestly comes to my mind, I mean, what you're bringing back here is these stories of her not sleeping for long periods of time, which I had no idea about either. Which of course is hugely difficult for anyone to cope with. But I just I think and there's not much consolation in this, but I think the way she chose to leave was very protective of all of you. That she decided to do it, and she did it the way she did. There's not much consolation in that,
No,
but it's something.
I agree.
Yeah.
She
thought that through in that way, and all I can say again, like for my dad's murder and overcoming that and trying to integrate that into my life, is these are the hardest moments in our life and the most meaningful. Because like you're working with grief and in a men's group and all the changes that have happened in your life, and the fact that we're even sitting here talking about such an intimate and important thing in your life. Thank you. It shows that you've risen to this challenge, to my mind, and are striving to make it meaningful for you and your family. And I really salute you for that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to sit here and talk.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah. So, before we both lay down and weep for the rest of the evening, will we leave it there for the moment?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to chat
that's
about?
it. No,
Okay. I think we did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very happy I did it. Thank you.
Me too.
For the invitation.
Me too.
Thanks, Lou.
Anytime. Pleasure. Yeah. You're my hero. And same to your mom. God love her.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. There it is, folks. That's as intimate as it gets. I hope you get some inspiration and healing from Andrew and Allison and their family story of overcoming a huge challenge and striving to make it meaningful. Thank you for being here. Please share this with anyone you think might be helped by it, and let us know your thoughts about this journey. Peace and blessings. Yeah, Andrew, cheerio.
Thank you.
Okay, over and out.